A-E-1 Short.
My name's Ben Zweig, drummer, composer, percussionist. Dive into this thing. Don't think too much about all these other things you're doing. This is a beautiful thing about being a musician, is you can cultivate those kinds of experiences. Something about the drums, about the rhythm touches me, and it's so deep in humanity, and it touched so many other people to dedicate their life to drums 1,000 miles away in a unique culture. You know, right now I'm just trying to feel it, and I think I bring that to the music that I play in New York, even if that's jazz music, if that's what I know and that's me. This is ATSometime somewhere for AT1 radio. Well, it goes back, allegedly, I was beating up my parents. They had some old furniture, and I had some kind of wooden dowel or something, and I would play along. They used to listen to the Beatles, to doo-wop, amongst other things, but a lot of Broadway and stuff like this. But I would play along, and so they thought, let's get him a toy drum set. He'll stop kind of beating up the furniture. So they got me a toy drum set. I used to say I figured out how drummers play the endings of songs, which I don't know, if you know, you listen to drums, usually they just go wild. I couldn't play anything. I'm sure it was horrible for them to listen to. So they said, okay, we'll get you a lesson or 2 lessons, then maybe it'll be easier to listen to, I think maybe was the vibe. And they got me some lessons, and then I really liked playing music, and that just led to many performances playing in school. I took an interest in the trumpet. I played the trumpet for many years, up until freshman year of high school. I was only playing the trumpet in school, but still playing the drums and taking the drums seriously. And when I was about 11, 12, I got really into steel drums. I had one CD that had this kind of tropical compilation of steel drums, and I liked some of the tunes on there. This is a great band, probably from some island, not Trinidad, some St. Vincent or Barbados or something. But it was a great record. And so then I really wanted to get into steel drums, and I grew up in New Jersey, so we found this woman who was running a band, a pan band, and we went out there, and the guy who was kind of involved with a lot of their gigs, this guy Eddie Quarles, who used to arrange for De Radio's in Brooklyn, which is a big steel pan band. And so he gave me a kind of early lesson. I took it to New Jersey and would check in with the steel drum community. I used to go to camp, a steel drum camp when I was a kid. Yeah, in West Virginia. They have this steel drum camp, and it was amazing, man. All the best pan writers from Trinidad would come up. And Ellie Manette, he made a lot of the early pans. In Trinidad, he started a program at West Virginia University. So they had great drums. They had a great band there. It was amazing. Yeah, a really wacky kind of combination, West Virginia. Yeah, I always say one of my big regrets is, as a kid in New Jersey, I never played in that garage rock band. I feel like that was so classic for so many people where I'm from, and I just never did that. But I've always been interested in lots of different things. There was this record my dad loved, Jean-Luc Ponty record, called Chocolo. Is that the name of the record? It's the name of a song. It might be the record too. But he had that CD, and we used to listen to it a lot. And the drummer now on that CD, this guy Brice Wassi, who I had heard about in the jazz circle a little bit as this kind of legendary teacher. Now he's one of my friends. When I go to Paris, I always call Brice and try and hang with him a little bit, because a deep source of knowledge, and just kind of random, this record my dad liked, and now it's, a deep connection. So I was always deep into music, but before college, as you could probably tell from I just dabbled in so many different things, and I loved jazz drums. I kind of got a lot more serious about it in high school, because everyone was kind of like, if you don't get serious about this, you won't be able to pursue music. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm not grateful, because the depth of jazz drums, I think, also just guides everything that I do. So it's just a lens that you learn to see the world from. And I think it's helpful to put blinders on in that regard. And that's kind of what college is. It's dive into this thing. Don't think too much about all these other things you're doing. And the thing that really saved me, I think, my own interest, keeping that light alive in college through this hard work and very specific kind of genre things and these gigs that I really wanted I still love playing gigs in those styles, but I think it's kind of like this dogmatic teaching from certain colleges that like the New York scene is this, the gigs that you want to get are these types of gigs. These are the people who are around that could hire you, that you could create an ecosystem for yourself. And I think the music world is bigger than that, but it's great to put your blinders on and kind of go to school and like really hone in on something. And I think I did that with the exception of everyone around me, especially my undergraduate class at MSM, was just unbelievable musicians. Like, I was so in awe. And everyone's really talented, different genres. We maybe had like 15 people in the class, something like that. And most of them now are still playing on really high level superstars. I could name names, but it's not even really important on an individual level because it's just every one of us was so inspired by everyone else. I think that was the greatest thing, the boosts, was being around these people who like one saxophonist, he on John Coltrane's birthday every day, he just listened to 24 hours of Train, the entire discography. And you could just join him in his room and he'd be like singing along to every solo on every record. Just wow, what am I supposed to do after I see that, level of dedication to something? So, yeah, MSM, that was amazing in those years. Yeah. At college is very special. I think it's really hard to cultivate a community of that level of talent consistently. But my communities are very talented, but I don't know, the community is more transient in the career sense than it is in college. In college, it was like, for me, and at least in the musician sense, maybe it was like 30 or 40 core characters in classical or jazz, basically, and then like that's all the people you know really well. But now a lot of my friends are people I've stayed in touch with in Montreal, these indie musicians and jazz musicians, and a broader community. I have friends in Paris that are doing things, and now I have friends in Morocco that are putting out music, and it's like the more people I meet, the broader my community. I guess I talked earlier about globalization sometimes as if it's a bad thing, and there's some good aspects too. You can create these huge communities of people putting out different kinds of music, and like, yeah. So I think the cultivation of community is broader than any one place. That being said, like I frequently go out to different places in New York, like at different times in my life, all the time in certain places, and I really know all the characters that hang in those places. And cultivating that is really important too, yeah. So there's kind of two sides to that. I think one of the most positive things I've seen traveling to various places, I traveled around Brazil to Cameroon. I was just in Morocco. I spent a lot of time in trying to see like the Brooklyn panorama scene. So to me, one day I'll go to Trinidad, but it's like to really explore a community, a region really well, it's hard to do, especially from outside that culture. And it can be kind of scary, and you could feel like, maybe I won't get anything out of it. But it's like being in a musician community, I find, like being able to speak the same language as music, to be on the same level as somebody who's playing music, and to go somewhere and like, you don't even have to really communicate, but if they know you're a musician and you know they're a musician, like you already share so much. And I personally have received like really positive responses from people that I could not communicate outside of sabadabadat skugududum, like we could communicate, but yeah. So anything now that I'm interested in, I just try and dive into it enough that I can't dive any further in feeling with recorded music or video. And then I feel like I have to go there. I have to find a way to make it happen. And this is a beautiful thing about being a musician, is you can cultivate those kinds of experiences. Yeah, so that's, I guess, nature of community and going to places. Like, you might be surprised, But then in terms of globalization, I also think it's important just from a personal standpoint because, we had Roy Haynes die like last night. And like these pivotal figures that you get to see, you get to experience the feeling in the room with, like, they're passing away at a very fast rate. And to me, that's what I'm chasing, is that feeling with these masters. And I see it all over the world. The Malam of Morocco, they spend all their life playing Gnawa music. It's just as deep as any jazz master, which is just as deep as any, like, lead singer of some choir where they grew up together. Like, these are masters of their craft. They've done it every day for a lifetime. And like, I want to see those people and experience that. And like, you got to go to the source. Like, your phone, it can only capture like 30% at best, so. Specifically, that I fell in love with these people called the Baka people. They're pygmy people, and they're mostly hunter-gatherer society, supposedly about 50,000 years old, and they live in the jungles of Cameroon, of Congo Brazzaville, kind of in this, like, I guess this is like the northern Congo Basin rainforest region. And so I found a video of these women doing what's called liquindi, where they're drumming on the water. And I was just freaked out that they could do this, that they could create these kinds of percussive sounds on water that, we all know water, but nobody had actually shown me that this was possible in a sound source and the rhythms that they were creating. And so I contacted the guy who made the YouTube video. It's this guy, Martin Craddock, who's kind of, I guess I felt very similar to. He's just a music lover and a musician himself, who in the 90s traveled to Cameroon with his wife and met a bunch of musicians, and over the years returned many times and created a relationship with different musicians in the community. And so he's recorded a lot, and when you record a village of people and you make a little bit of money on streaming or whatever, you feel like you keep going back. Well, I have this amount of money, here you go, and like, you want to do something else, like we can, and so he's like maintained a relationship with these people over the years. So I hit him up and I said, I just want to be a part of this. I want to see it. Like, is there any way I can help you be a part of this? And he said, well, actually, I'm going to be there at this time. And, it's kind of a funny story. I didn't know how I was going to get to Cameroon with the funds that I had, but I had an offer to do a birthright trip to Israel. So I took the birthright trip where they pay for a trip to Israel. I extended for 90 days, and for that time in between, I traveled to Cameroon and I saw what I needed to see. I flew back through Israel, which is a relatively short distance, was a fee I could afford, and I flew home. And I made that work. Yeah, it's one of the greatest pieces of advice I could say is if you have any opportunity to travel, to go somewhere. A lot of people I know, musicians, they travel there, they get the flight paid for in both directions, and then they turn around and go home after the gig. I'm like, where else can I go? Like, they just flew me across the world. I just had a gig in Portugal. I was like, I need to go to Morocco. Like, there's no choice. Anytime I get that opportunity, because it's professional development. We could talk about the tax benefits too if you want, but the whole point is like, yeah, you got to do that stuff. So Cameroon was like the first time I said I have to do this, and I went with so many questions, and I came back with so many more. Like, the things I think about after that trip are not even close to the things I started there being like, I want to learn this water drumming technique. I'm going to go to New York and play water drumming. But then now I'm like, how do they live so well in like essentially cooperative society? Like, no one starves while other people feast, and they live off the land. They're probably one of the last groups of people in the world to live off the land. It's getting harder and harder. And when you see that level of humanity, it's like, oh, of course the music is oozing with feeling. Their life is oozing with feeling. Yeah. And I think it's something that plagues the ethnomusicology studies in schools, because it's an ethics question of like, how do you do right by a people you claim to respect in studying, but then by studying them, by making them other than yourself, you create this kind of barrier. And I think now a lot of the ethnomusicology departments, they kind of focus a lot more on identity politic, on kind of like, what can you talk about your experience? Because then no one can ever find fault with your authenticity or your genuineness. And I struggle to say that that's true, because like, I don't know. I know people who are something who aren't a good representation of that thing. And I know other people who aren't something who represent something with the utmost respect and care and knowledge, and they are not of that thing. So I don't know if that's the right way. For me, all of this is just something about the drums, about the rhythm touches me. and it's so deep in humanity, and it touched so many other people to dedicate their life to drums 1,000 miles away in a unique culture. That touches me too. It's like, I just want to meet those people and connect with them. And like, to me, it's a diasporic study because there's something in me, a genetically Ashkenazi Jewish person from a certain place in Europe, that is touched by what somebody in Morocco is doing, is touched by what a native recording from Colombia is doing, that's touched by a Siberian recording. Like, there's something connecting all of us in a deep way. And like, I don't know, I can't quantify that or qualify it even. I'd like to try one day, but you know, right now I'm just trying to feel it. And like, I think I bring that to the music that I play in New York, even if that's jazz music, if that's what I know and that's me. Like, you know, jazz music's always been a genre of combining other things together. So when I say diasporic music or any of the, I don't know, we're all studying that to some degree. Even people that claim to be studying European classical music were affected by the Moors. And the Moors are North Africans who might have been Yemeni, who were affected by the Malian people who came through probably as slaves. So that story is jazz. And then, I mean, we could sit here all day and talk about this, but yeah, the important part, I think, is just learning. No music is really that individual or unique. Like, it can be explained, and then those music can be explained. And at the start of it all is just a bunch of people together making some music that went other places. So, yeah, I think that's...
A-E-1 Sort.
ATSometime Somewhere is produced by Audio Technica for AT1 Radio. It is recorded at AT1 Studio at Technica House, New York. Follow AT1 Radio and Audio Technica USA on all social media platforms. Thanks for listening.